Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Inside the Force. Dave Cottingham with Casey Cooley.
Hello, everybody.
How we doing, Case?
I'm okay. If you're watching, you can see I got a little Nelly Band-Aid on my face. But, yeah, I got a little scratched. Just a little scratch.
Yes.
Drew some blood. I'll have these
Not
gigantic
like,
Band-Aids.
not like from some animal or anything.
Oh, no. That would be cool. Gosh, dang it. Well, I mean, my son is a bit of a wild boar at times anyway, so kind of. He scratched me. My son scratched me.
And if you're watching, you can't see, but I actually had a root canal today.
We're all pieced together here.
But
we're here.
But there's Star Wars to talk about. So, got a lot to talk about in this episode. We are continuing our journey to episode 9. We're going to shift some things now into kind of the episode 2 era. Mm-hmm. And really focus on some topics in the next couple weeks about episode 2. This week, we want to talk about Dooku.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Dooku.
We're going to tie in Dooku Jedi Lost, the audio drama that was released a few weeks ago. Hopefully you've listened to that. I know a couple of our listeners have been talking about, hey, I'm starting this, I'm starting it. So we won't try to spoil too much, but we may talk about it a little bit here. But a couple big things before we get into that, news-wise. I guess the big thing that Casey's been actually texting me every time he sees something else, but
it feels like it's every time.
Galaxy's Edge has officially opened at Disneyland. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, this is very Disney-related, which Star Wars is owned by Disney, but, I mean, the significance of this park...
Man, it's
pretty mind-boggling.
Game changer of life.
Yeah. So what have you seen that's really just blown your mind so far?
I still haven't really seen very much of Smuggler's Run. A little, so like, I watch like Instagram stories and stuff like that. So some people have shown it, just a little bit of what it looks like in the cockpit, which it's cool. But no, like most of what I've been seeing, which I've been loving, it's just the environment, man. It's like, I showed you a video of, what was it, Sav's lightsaber?
Yeah, Savvy's workshop.
Which is cool in itself. Yeah, building the lightsaber. And you go to the LA Times, they have a video out there. It almost seems like the entire process in a way. Like you hear the whole spiel.
Yeah.
You get the whole presentation of it all. It's incredible. Like you're in this dingy little workshop, and it feels very Star Wars. It feels like you're in another world, and it's in the cast members. Of course, it's if you've been to Disney, you know how involved in method every cast member is when they're playing a character. It's the same thing here, but it's Star Wars. So if you ever wanted to live it, it feels very much like you're living in Star Wars because the environment it looks like a marketplace. It doesn't look like even a different park of Disney, or I mean, like Animal Kingdom is very unique and very identifiable because it looks like you're in Animal Kingdom. But the other parks, it feels like at times it feels like you're in a theme park, albeit it's more Hollywood-esque or more like Main Street of like Magic Kingdom. That's Main Street at the first, like going to the castle. So it's like that feels very classic. Or this, it's like it's got these steps. It's got this little marketplace area. It's got just its own trees and flowers and everything. It just feels like you're not even a part of Disney, which is incredible.
And I think what I read when the engineers or the Imagineers were creating this place, I remember hearing them talk about how they wanted you while you were walking around to not be able to see anything else, any other part of the parks. Because they wanted you to feel like you were on a different planet. And when you look at the video, it's like you don't see anything else. You see these big spires, and you're just surrounded by this spaceport. And I'm extremely jealous that I haven't been able to go there. I mean, I'm going to Orlando here this fall, so hopefully I'll be able to experience that. And I think my fear was that the two places would be different, but it doesn't feel like it's going to be. I feel like the layout is going to be exactly the same. The way I remember it's kind of shaped what I saw in Orlando when it was getting built, it was relatively the same layout. So I think they're going to be reflections of each other.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, thinking too, I kind of equate it now to Epcot in a way, to where when you step into their country, the architecture is different.
That's right.
Everything's different about that specific area because it's identifiable to that culture. Where it feels very much like you're in the culture of Batu.
Yeah,
and to the point where I keep reading the cast members that are just kind of walking around, or even if they're part of the vendors, they'll greet you or say goodbye to you using Batu slang, and I'm most excited about just engaging that. Just engaging the environment and these cast members to like just talk to them and tell me about what's going on around Batu. Tell me about you.
Totally.
Tell me about your backstory, your characters. So you could spend a week there.
You could easily. Now I don't know what I'm going to do this fall because I think we definitely have 2 days planned for Hollywood Studios. But I'm like I don't know. I might have to just duck out of the other days. And go there depending on what I get experience. If you go online, there definitely you can find the guide map that Disneyland has released, obviously, and on the Disneyland app, it's clear as day. It's the full layout is there. Now, just some highlights of it. If you're looking at the guide map, the complete left side of the park of Galaxy's Edge is the Rise of the Resistance ride that's not even open yet.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So you can walk around there still and see like the X-wing. I think there's an X-wing sitting there and even an A-wing or something like that. But the ride isn't even open yet. Both rides in both parks are going to be open later this year. That won't be open, I don't think, when I go either. I think they're talking about like November, December. But then on the very other end of the park of Galaxy's Edge, that's where the Falcon is. Which is Smuggler's Run, the ride that you're talking about. The only thing that throws me off about that ride really is the 6 chairs in the cockpit.
Yeah.
Like,
this isn't real.
That's not real.
That's just what Hondo does. That's his modification, and then they take it back out.
Okay.
Han takes it back out when he gets it back, or whoever gets it after Hondo. So that's the thing. Like, I don't know. And people are asking this question, like, they keep saying it's canon, and I'm believing that in every sense of the word. So therefore, when do these events of Batu that we are experiencing currently take place in canon? Because obviously Resistance and First Order are around, but Hondo has the Falcon. How does that work? So I'm not sure if Story Group has already answered it, but I know people have been asking that question.
That's true, yeah. It is definitely during the Resistance time, so it's almost as if it's between, somewhere in the 7, 8, 9 range.
Yeah.
Hondo's still around, I guess, right? I mean, he's the animatronic that they have of him is a very older version of him.
Yeah. It looks great.
Yeah, so it's true. I don't know.
Curious, it's such a cool thing too, is I saw it when I'm watching the Savi's workshop, I don't call it attraction. But the guy, one of the cast members talking about the lightsabers, saying, it's so and so used this lightsaber like Luke's, the Legend of Luke Skywalker, or now there's a new Jedi, Rey, and so it's like in there. I've noticed that there's other Easter eggs of these marionette dolls reenacting the Vader and Obi-Wan fight. So it's interesting because there's legends of these historic battles and these historic Jedi. The legends and the myths are circulating Batu, as we kind of already heard that. There's a book of Legend of Luke Skywalker. They kind of do that a little bit in Last Jedi. So we know that there's stories of these people that are real. But again, trying to make canon connections, it's interesting that Rey is now somewhat of a myth and story to the people of Batu. And there's a Rey walking around Batu.
Oh, yeah.
She looks great. She looks a lot like... I think she looks... It's a pretty good Rey.
Yeah.
I have to say. It looks like Daisy Ridley. But... I'm just I don't know how strict we need to adhere canon to this, because obviously it's, you got to be a little flexible. But still, it's like, like we were talking about the lightsaber part. They talk about kyber crystals. They talk about how you choose your kyber crystal and the colors of the kyber crystal. It's like they're not really talking about what we know as canon for kyber crystals.
That's right.
So unless there's something we don't know, or that's just one of those, in terms of Star Wars, suspension of disbelief in regards to canon.
Yeah.
So, it's just it's interesting. I mean, obviously we're overthinking and over-engineering. It's just a theme park, and just go and enjoy it, which of course we will whenever we go. But this is part of the fun, is
totally
figuring out the canon of it and the story of it, how it all connects. So I don't know.
Yeah. So getting into that a little bit too. Yeah, about so I wanted to run through this real fast.
Yeah.
So anyway, the guide map. Basically, there's four. Right now, Well, right now there's only 3 attractions. Rise of the Resistance being the 4th, but the Falcon. Then, like you said, Savvy's Workshop, where you can build lightsabers, and then there's the Droid Depot. You can actually build droids.
Yeah.
Now, I read too that you can actually purchase
crazy
full-size R2 unit for the price of like $25,000. You can get one built, or you can either purchase it or buy, or I don't know, but somehow you can get that price tag there. You can do that. They've got dining. We've talked about that a little bit. So they've got, looks like 4 or 5 places of dining, and some are just beverage stands. Some are just, one's just like Oga's Cantina is literally just a bar area.
Yeah,
it's a beverage place. You got Docking Bay 7, Food and Cargo. You got Ronto Roasters. And then you got a marketplace that's got a bunch of shopping and stuff. You can buy. You see, like you can buy like creatures. Yeah, like to sit on your shoulder. And stuff. Like the what's the monkey?
The Quacky
monkey,
lizard monkey.
Yeah,
lizard.
exactly.
Slush be, yeah.
And then there's like loth cats in cages and stuff.
I've heard of that. I guess animatronic ones.
Yes.
I guess I haven't seen pictures of it. I've
seen video of them. They're like sitting there sleeping in the cages.
That's cool. No, I've seen cool merchandise that little things like a true sabacc deck from Solo.
I want to. Oh my gosh! I
like
get that.
With that kind of, what is that? Not octagon. It's like a hexagon shape.
Yes.
Kind of card.
Cards. Yeah.
And then a bag of chance cubes. Like that's so cool.
Yes.
Like I want a chance cube. I want that. I want those little things.
Ondor's Den of Antiquities. I think that's where that is.
Okay.
And then they also have holocrons.
Yeah.
And Jedi holocrons.
Oh my gosh.
And then you texted me a video.
There's an
of
Easter
when
egg.
You put them next to each other.
Because it's so fun, because we were talking about this before I saw the video of, like, we were just looking at the Jedi Holocron and how it lights up. Apparently you put a crystal in it and it lights up. It does some cool stuff. And I thought, like, well, you know what? If just not
how real is it?
Like, how real is it? Because they should have built in a feature to where you connect them, like in Rebels, and they do cool things. But in this case, it's like that, where people found out quickly that if you just place them next to each other, I don't think you have to touch them, but if they just place next to each other, they light up. I couldn't quite hear what they're saying.
They start glowing together. Like
the
blue,
it's a different color.
Yes.
Yeah.
The blue becomes more of the red, and the red becomes more of the blue.
And someone, I didn't read too far into it, but someone mentioned on Reddit that there's a Bindu Easter egg part of it. So I don't know if you hear Bindu. I don't know if that means you hear him, or if they're just reading into that, because to me, what I saw in a separate video was, they just light up and it just kind of sparks, makes different sounds and different lights, which is super cool.
Super cool.
And they turn, sides turn. So
I'm definitely getting that.
It's a real holocron.
It's definitely getting that. Like we said, the Savvy's Workshop is where you build the lightsaber. Now, like you said, there's a video out there that we watched from the LA Times that a gentleman's going through there and building it. Now, where does the canon start and stop?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you can't just build a lightsaber. You have to be a Jedi to build a lightsaber, right?
The thing is, it's like, it's like these are maybe fabricated kyber crystals. Maybe they can say something like that.
Yeah. So anyway,
I don't know.
Yeah, what I was telling Casey was after I watched it was, when they go on to explain the crystal, and they say that the crystal comes in different colors, which isn't true, right? It's colorless until it actually gets activated. Yeah. And then, of course, there's no red crystals. Those are crystals that get bled by dark side users. So it's like, I get it that they have to choose a color, but what would have been, again, I'm not going to knock Disney, but would have been really cool, and I feel like they could have developed this technology, but have clear crystals, and the device that you turn it on with would just
somehow
would emit the color you are. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like
each crystal is clear, but it has a pre-built color. It's just you choose it at random.
Either that or a device in the mechanism that turns it on is a different color. You know what I mean? So when it goes through the crystal, it becomes a color.
I mean, that whole process itself is too. I feel like I shouldn't be spoiling this. I feel like I saw too much, honestly, in this video. Like
it was the whole process.
I feel like I'm in the thing. But the way they get the blade is so super cool.
That's so cool.
And empowering, and everything lights up. You hear your voices and stuff like that.
Yes.
But the guy was explaining too just the material of it, because I've always, you told me it's metal, but I can't keep wrapping my head around, like, how can they mass produce these? If it's metal, I feel like that'd be super expensive. I don't know. I still haven't heard of a cost, but
I know the cost.
Oh, hold on. What is it?
It's $200.
$200 for a lightsaber?
Yep.
Golly.
I think it's $199 to do the experience and get a lightsaber. Yeah, but it is a full metal tilt.
Do it. But you said it's like a Force FX lightsaber, right?
Yes, it's basically like that. Yeah. It's metal. Yeah.
Well, that's great, because the guy was explaining it's a hefty hilt. It's not like a plastic one that you can buy at Target or whatever. Right. It's a real deal. So.
Yeah, it's a real deal. So you're paying for the experience. Mm-hmm. And of course, you're paying for now. Unlike that one, I can't open it up and pull a crystal out of it. Like this has a crystal in it.
Yes, and I have to imagine, because the way they put the blade into it, looks like they just kind of hook it in there.
It looks like it's already in there. Like it looks like you jab it in there, or you twist it or something. So there's got to be a way
you can just take it out. An easy way they can unlock it out.
I would think so.
Hopefully they're meaning for you to carry it for cosplaying too, if you wanted to.
Hopefully you can buy a clip, and carry it on your belt.
I'm gonna make my own character. I'm gonna just play the heck out of it at the next celebration.
And I'm curious on how much different unique pieces they have, because I don't want to
showing a lot.
I know. Yeah, because they said that there's drawers for there's Old Republic. They're talking about there's Old Republic ones.
Okay,
like not metal. It was like
I heard a leather. I think
like a leather
bone.
It's like different types and different eras.
Yeah,
so that's really cool. So basically, because I was thinking I don't want to make one that someone else makes one.
Oh, I know. I got
the next day. It's got to be unique. Yeah. So how many different combinations there are? But it looked really cool. Like you put the crystal in there, and like I said, though, it's already you go around. You can pick your color. That's why. Yeah. That's the only thing I wish. I wish it would choose you.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Because think about it, if you got red, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm making this bleed.
I love it. It'd be cool too if when you hook the blade in there and you turn on for the first time, there was like little fans that kind of gust, and it's like an impact of just awesomeness. Oh yeah. As you kind of like the Forces of Destiny. What was the Galaxy of Adventures? That's what it was.
Yes.
When they did the one with Luke turning on for the first time, and it was just like a gust blowing back his hair. Right. When he first turned on the lightsaber, like that's what I want to feel like when I first turn on my lightsaber.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it's going to be amazingly cool whenever I get to do that for the first time. But I wonder, kind of a quick way to explain it. When we know that there are not synthetic, but there are different types of crystals that very much resemble kyber crystals. We saw that in Master and Apprentice. Mm-hmm. They discovered that crystal, which
that blocks them basically, right?
It's almost as powerful, I guess, in a way. But the terrorists were using them to create, I think, shields or something like that. And,
it blocks sabers, right?
Yeah. So. That could be something like that. So maybe because I can kind of see it, like Batu is very much of a scum and villainy type of. It's very run down. There's it's like cantinas and stuff like that. So that kind of have this scum and villainy there. So I'm thinking that Story Group could explain it in a way where these are con artists in a way, making you believe they're real lightsabers.
Yeah, true.
But they're tricking you.
Yeah.
So kind of a thing, kind of a playful way of doing it. But I don't know.
That's true. Yeah, because technically this being so out of, so deep into space in the outer rim right before wild space, it's like there probably wouldn't be a Jedi presence there in a way, what I mean? So who knows?
Or because the colors, seems like they do retain their color.
They do once they are activated.
So
yeah, but again, the crystal the crystal doesn't turn colors. It's always clear. The color it emits is what is different.
That's true.
You know what I mean? Like the crystal stays clear. Mm-hmm. It's just the color it emits will always stay that color then.
Yeah.
Until it's either used by a dark side user and bleeds and then gets redeemed and then it's white. Mm-hmm. But once it's blue or green or purple, it stays that color. Yeah. Or yellow. I guess it's weird that the yellow ones are kind of Jedi Temple guards.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
it's like weird how they.
Yeah.
It's like automatic, or I don't know how that works, but but maybe it'll come out that they somehow can force a color. I don't know. Like make it.
Sure.
I don't know.
They'll find a way.
Yeah,
if they have to. They're good at that.
Yeah. Either way, though, the Galaxy's Edge is open in Disneyland. You can't actually access it right now, which is crazy. They actually had reservations about a month ago. So up until June 23rd, you have to get in with a reservation right now. I think but unless you stay at a Disneyland park.
The resort.
I'm sorry, a resort.
Yeah, if you stay at one of the 3 resorts, apparently, I guess they have to have reserved spots.
They have
those people.
Yeah, they have tickets you can get to go in. But it is open for fast passes and and regular patrons after June 23rd, I think. And then August 29th will be the opening of Hollywood Studios Galaxy's Edge. August 29th. So if you're in Orlando or planning on going to Disney in the fall, you'll be able to go.
Yeah.
Well, you'll be able to wait in line to go, probably.
Yeah, you'll be able
Who knows?
Smell the Ronto roasters from afar.
Oh, my gosh,
Get in there. Food looks great.
It does.
Drinks look great. Everything looks great.
I know. I can't. I don't know. The more I talk about it, I'm thinking I'm going to go upstairs and tell my wife, like, Listen, I want to just spend the whole week there. You can go everywhere else. But yeah, I need time. Next big bit of news before we start talking about Dooku here is the topic that's floating around right now that a new film is in development or has even been in development, but it is a trilogy of movies getting worked on based on Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah.
And I'm probably going to butcher her name, and I think I've heard it in a different podcast, but Lita Kalogridis is the writer that has been tasked with writing this script. I'll look her up. I failed to look her up before we did the show. But anyway, I know she has a writing credit for Avatar. I think she worked on one of the Terminator movies. I think it was either Genesis or Salvation. But anyway, she is tasked with writing KOTOR. So now, whether or not there's nothing else to know about it, right? There's nothing else.
Yeah.
And this is not from StarWars.com. This is from a BuzzFeed article. Pretty reliable source is what I've heard. But whether or not it's fully an adaptation from the game, we don't know. If it's just going to pull elements from it. Is it going to take place 4,000 years before the movies like it did in the games? I don't know. But right now we can at least speculate on how excited or how much do we want this? Okay.
I mean, of all the stories people have been pining for, I would say Old Republic era is the top of the list, next to a Kenobi movie. I feel like this is what people have finally been asking for, and hopefully are getting relatively soon. I'm very excited. I've always been a huge fan of those games. I played when they first came out multiple times. I didn't get into the Old Republic, the MMO game on PC, but because I have a Mac, that's the only reason why. But I would have played it. So I've just huge fan of that era, that mythology, and man, if they do adapt the game, I mean, if it's just elements, even if it's just in the Old Republic era, I'm super psyched. But if they start bringing in the game like Reven, Malik, Bastila, all those other characters, that would be amazing. I mean, I'm fine with it if they want to take the characters and do new stories, but anything, it's great. I'm very excited.
Yeah, I'm sure most of our listeners are maybe in my boat because I truly feel like you have half of the Star Wars fans that have played the game and half that have not. And we are right. We fit the ratio right here because you have and I haven't.
Yeah.
Now, and it mainly because it was a PC game. I wasn't a PC gamer.
The third one was, yeah.
The first two were too, but I
played them on Xbox.
Yeah, I think it was Xbox 360. I think it landed on, right. It was
the first one I think was on the original Xbox.
Really?
I can't remember. It's been a while.
It came out in 2000.
Like 5 or 6.
Came out in
4 or 5.
Oh, he said, yeah. Actually, released on Xbox in 2003.
3. Whew.
And then Windows later that year.
Okay.
So, and then eventually it came on Xbox 360.
Right.
And then Xbox One had a backwards compatibility for it.
Well, now you can get it on. You can get the KOTOR games, the first two. Maybe just the first one. I'm not sure. On Mac, on the App Store.
Yeah.
You can actually,
I think you can get it on your phone. iPhones,
yeah, phone,
right?
Mac, yeah.
So
iPads.
Who knows? I may go back and. But think about it too. I wasn't big on that kind of gameplay.
Role playing games. Yeah.
I was big on role playing, but I think the way that
this is like a choose your own adventure in a way. You either go the light side path or the dark side path.
Yes, but the fighting I wasn't really keen on, right?
Very Final Fantasy style.
Yeah, Final Fantasy, like
kinda,
back and forth kind of thing.
Yes, exactly.
Like I wait till you hit me and then I can hit you.
Yep.
Yeah, that stuff I didn't really like. I like when I come across somebody, I just go at it. I just,
yeah. Halo, you just go after him. Yeah. Melee.
That's why I'm sorry, like Jedi
Fallen Order.
Oh my gosh, but so that's the main reason I stayed away from it.
Yeah.
Now the story I love. I mean, I love reading about it. I love hearing about it. The era 4,000 years before the Empire.
Yeah, no mention of Empire, Skywalkers, none of that.
No, this is clearly a whole different era. Yeah. But it is Sith versus Jedi.
Yeah, everything else feels the same.
Yeah,
it's Jedi Order, Star Wars, the planets, spaceships, the technology. It's all the same. It's not like a primitive.
And
version.
that is a very key point. Like I do like. I guess I like the fact that yes, when you go back 4,000 years, that technology is the same as it is kind of in the era we are now. It's like the advancements. I mean, it's almost as if they got so far and they said, you know what, this is what it is. Like, there's not. What else could we advance? Like we can travel through space and time, and we can
make a tracker for hyperdrive.
Yeah. Well, I guess, yes, that was new technology.
That was anything, yeah.
But, the way they hologrammed, the way they flew around, it's like, I mean, the only other thing I can think of 4,000 years ago, maybe not all of the entire galaxy is mapped out, right? They're still discovering worlds possibly.
Right.
So, but, the whole empire of the Sith is at its height. The whole Jedi, who knows how many Jedi are at that point.
Yeah.
But it's funny to think of
too. It's called the Republic.
Yeah, well, it's referred to as the Old Republic. Yeah, because 1,000 years we know canon wise 1,000 years before Episode 1, the Republic got reorganized. Right, so this era of which I guess maybe it's 3,000 years. It was that government of the Republic.
Yeah,
and the Jedi were still involved in guarding the galaxy, but then you had the Sith out there, which, again, if it's canon, they're not... Which one? Oh, I keep getting them mixed up. Is it Korriban or Morban that's canon? It's Morban, right?
Morban's the new canon.
Yeah, the new canon. So Korriban is not... Right. That it was Korriban in this game, right?
Yeah.
So Morban is where the Sith kind of were, I guess... born and raised and
their home planet,
and grown and trained and all that stuff. So anyway, I don't think we should get into it too much now, but it's like how much of that storyline do you want to be fully translated to the film? I mean, or do you want to see something new?
I'm totally fine with seeing something new. What got me in the old games was the storyline of Reven. and just how you play through his story and his narrative in the first game mainly. The second game, your new character, it refers back to Reven. It has some of the same characters, but it's a new character,
which is like 5 years later.
Exactly,
I think, right?
yeah. So it's different, but same in the same kind of world, which is it's still good. I like the first KOTOR, I think, better, but what got me, it was the. I don't think I played a Star Wars game like that before. There were some, obviously, the Jedi Academy games were pretty awesome. KOTOR, though, I feel like the story is what really captured me, that narrative. So if they adapted that, great. It wouldn't be necessarily anything new, I guess, but I mean, it's just like seeing any other live-action remake of a movie. It's still just super cool because it feels more real. But I probably would like to see a new story just with the same characters, just to... for that nostalgic reason. But I remember it wasn't in the KOTOR games, but I even remember in the old Republic era, the Sith, there was even a race of Sith back in the original time, the Dawn of Jedi. That storyline was it was like a red kind of alien creature that were like the Sith race. So I wonder if there's so many things that they can pull. So many. I know, we both know that Dave Filoni has said, I think he almost pulled in some of that Reven, Old Republic stuff into it, but very curious. I can't see them adapting it. I don't think they'll adapt it.
I don't think so either.
But hopefully they'll.
And I don't think there's any way they could. Very similar to what they're doing with the sequel trilogy right now. Obviously, I think they're they've taken elements from Legends, because the game is a Legends game. I just don't think it. Like I heard Christian Harloff on. He wants an adaptation. Like he's like, I love the game. I think the story's there, but I just don't see them taking any canon story and adapting it. Or I'm sorry, any EU or Legends story and adapting it. I think you take elements from it to give fans, those characters, maybe that storyline. Because I have a hard time believing that they go that far back. Like they can do that story, but they set it a little closer.
Sure. Yeah.
Now, is there any chance that this is actually what Benioff and Weiss are working on?
Totally.
She's getting the first stab at writing, because that happens a lot where you hire a writer to write something, and then you take the best elements of it and then rewrite it.
Yeah.
Right? So they could have hired this girl. Now, again, I looked up her writing credits just so you know. She goes back to writing. She wrote Night Watch. She wrote Alexander. She wrote Pathfinder. She wrote. She executive produced Avatar. So she wasn't a writer on that. She wrote Shutter Island.
These are all kind of okay,
right? She wrote Terminator Genesis. Co-wrote. She not created, but she adapted that Altered Carbon show.
Interesting.
On Netflix, I think.
Yeah, I watched a little bit of that.
Yeah, and then she co-wrote Alita, Battle Angel. And then she's actually screenwriting also. It's an Untitled Sword Art online live action series. Anyway, so not not huge credits or huge,
not huge successes,
not huge
across
successes.
the board.
Yeah, so it says right here, actually, in her Wikipedia, it says on May 23rd, 2019, BuzzFeed News Kate author wrote the news that Kalogridis is writing a script for an adaptation of the BioWare and LucasArts video game Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. BuzzFeed identifies the project as a potential trilogy. So could I actually start, now that I've read that and read her credits, I kind of am leaning towards this being like a first draft for Benioff and Weiss' series.
Sure.
Because I think this is the era that they're going to be doing, that they're focusing on.
Yeah, untapped.
Totally
potential.
untapped. But I still think, I'm still in the belief that is eventually, like, it can start with Malik. Is it called? Is it Malik?
Reven's the master.
Reven.
Malik is his apprentice.
Okay, so Reven. I feel like it can start with Reven, but it's going to end with Bane.
That's kind of what I was thinking too. Like, I love it. Like what we were saying is they're mashing they're pushing this up in the timeline, but they're mashing the extinction of the Sith with Darth Bane, but also bring in elements from Reven and Malak. That would be awesome.
Yes.
In that sense, you could still adapt, I think, aspects of the story from KOTOR. But throw in the Bane element, throw in the extinction of the Sith, and loop it on, because there is a very much a grounded, more personal and intimate storyline with Reven and the cast of characters that you play through in the game. But on the grand scheme, the grand scale, it's that big final battle between Jedi and Sith. And if you want to bring in other elements, I mean, there's a huge Mandalorian element in the KOTOR games.
Yeah.
Huge. That was, to me, my first introduction, well, besides Boba Fett, but to the race and the culture of Mandalorian. Because one of the characters that you can play as and part of your team is, he's called Mandalore.
Oh.
Mandalore, the leader of the Mandalorians on the planet Mandalore. But the leader is called Mandalore, which his real name was, oh my gosh, Canderous. I think it was Canderous. Was that? Could be totally wrong. But he was super cool. I mean, it was the great game, because you do get to play. The great thing is, you do, because you have a team of a mixed, different aliens. You have the Mandalorian. You have a Wookiee. I'm kind of thinking of game 1 and 2 kind of together in this. I can't separate them right now. But you have a Zabrak, so you can be basically that Darth Maulish type of character. You have your Han Solo type. You have your Twi'lek character you can play with. All kinds of that's what's so fun. And the great thing too was the first KOTOR game. You really felt like you were becoming a Jedi, because you, as the character, you find out you're Force sensitive. You learn the Force, you grow in the Force, and then you can again choose dark side, light side powers. Super cool, super fun.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested. I think we're definitely going to see something from that era.
Yeah, no, that'd be cool.
Whether or not she ends up being the writer or not, I don't know. But I definitely think it's something to do with Benioff and Weiss.
Yeah,
I definitely think that it's going to involve Reven. I mean, Reven's such a huge character. I mean, they have action figures of him.
Yeah,
in the
he's one of the biggest Legends characters right now.
Yeah, they have him in the vintage casing. It's like he's like almost like a legend, like a canon character, even though he's not yet.
Yeah, he's a lot of cosplayers. And that's
he's not canon, right? They haven't really made him canon yet, I don't think.
I want to say they got super close at one point.
Yeah.
No, they haven't. I think that style, because they've repeated that masked type. Well, Reven had a full mask, full body, full head mask. Malak had kind of the mouthpiece for a little while.
Oh, right.
Malak was the bald one with the mouth guard, essentially. But they've recreated that style. I feel like they've done that a couple times in Star Wars. That style of a character where you see most of his face except for his mouth or some part of his face that's covered with a helmet or a mask. So they can bring that in definitely. I mean, even if if we're talking about the whole Sith Empire, why not bring in some of the villains from the second KOTOR game? Because you have 3 great villains in that as well. Dark side villains. Darth Sion, I pronounce it Nihilus. I'm not sure how you can say his name, but Nihilus. And then Darth Kreia. There was another dark side character in the first game. I can't remember her name. I mean, there are so many great characters you can pull from in that storyline. There was even a Yoda-ish character. It was his race. It was the race from Yoda, but he had a different name. Yeah. They definitely is echoed very much the movies.
Right.
Very fun. Dan Tween was a planet you can play on, which was nice.
Which would be actually, I just kind of thought of what would be really neat somehow is if it was a Darth Bane movie, but you had him like discovering stuff through holocrons, and you had flashbacks of Reven.
Oh, sure, that's true.
You know what I mean?
True,
like Reven started this like 1,000 years ago. I don't know. You could time jump some stuff maybe. But
if they wanted to create, because at first Benioff and Weiss had said they were doing a series of movies, but now we know it as a trilogy.
Yeah.
But like, I wish they kept it as a series and they could have done a more lengthy franchise. I feel like of 5 or 6 movies of this battle, because if you have a huge cast of villain characters and a huge cast of hero characters, and it's just a very long battle and different storyline. I mean, they did that with Harry Potter. They're doing it again with Harry Potter with the Fantastic Beasts movies although that's kind of got mixed reactions. But still, I think there's room in there to create, in a sense, a new saga of films with the Old Republic
Or would
era.
it be better to do it as like a Game of Thrones series?
A series of
like 10 episodes a season?
Absolutely.
Knights of the Old Republic?
Yeah.
I mean, that's...
Absolutely.
That sounds like a Disney Plus series right there. You know?
That would have been great, yeah.
But that's a lot of lightsaber effects and stuff.
Sure.
So I don't know. Because Game of Thrones,
that's got to be cheaper by now.
I guess. Yeah, probably. It just takes time still to...
Fast, quick way, maybe?
Yeah, maybe.
There's no faster way? I don't know.
Anyway, we'll keep that going, and as we hear stuff, we'll keep talking about that. But okay, so shifting over to our main topic here, which is Dooku, and as we shift over to episode 2 a little bit, and how this kind of ties into where we're going with episode 9 and the saga and the Skywalker saga finishing up. Which I just looked it up. We're actually under 200 days now. We're 197 days from episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. So as we dive into Dooku, basically the topic or the discussion is centered around his significance, if any, into this saga. Right now, let's focus on the book, the audiobook. So Dooku Jedi Lost came out a few weeks ago, and most of you have listened to it. If not, I know we've gotten some reactions from people starting it and getting into it. But without revealing too much, but there's definitely some with that, and with Master and Apprentice. There's a lot of more we've learned of Dooku.
Yeah.
For one, I think the biggest discovery has been, I've been under this impression, just because of the films, that Dooku left shortly after episode 1, or right around the time of episode 1. Like, because because in that discussion he had with Obi-Wan in episode 2, where I was once his master or he was once my apprentice as you are to him, talking to Obi-Wan. And he's like, I wish he was around. I can use his advice right now. It's like, I felt like he lost him. He lost Qui-Gon. And of course he got tempted because he was either angry or feeling emotion. Yeah. And that's what kind of drew him to the dark side. Right. But what we find out, that he literally had been gone for years before episode 1. And then in Dooku Jedi Lost, you kind of find out how that happens and what leads to him, which we talked about. It has some to do with the Order, but not necessarily. So, right. I don't know what. I guess the first thing is talk about is how much have we learned of him, and how much is that significant to what we know of him in the films?
Yeah, I will say this though. Overall, I really loved Jedi Lost, but I didn't think it went far enough into his story. I was anticipating Jedi Lost to fill in every basically gap of Dooku's story that we know of. It didn't, and so there's still a lot of questions that I have for his backstory. But what it did tell me, I mean, let's see, it didn't really change a lot of my perception of him. I think what the biggest revelations for me were Cypher Diaz. I think was big for me. And learning, because we knew virtually nothing still, even
he was a big mystery.
Yeah, so we learned a lot from him. And again, they didn't go far enough. Like, I think there's enough there for me to make some connections to fill in some gaps, but still, it wasn't enough. So his relationship with Cypher Diaz was great, and that was pretty. That changed a lot for me in terms of Dooku, but I mean, overall it was great, but didn't go quite far enough. I wish it talked more about him leaving the Order. Yeah, and like he didn't quite attribute everything to leaving the Order because of the Jedi, but you do get the sense through the story of his upbringing that he does have problems with it. Right, he makes that pretty clear. Yeah, so that helps, but it's not ultimately his. It was not ultimately his.
And Qui-Gon was a really a big kind of a mirror image of him.
Yeah.
You know, with
absolutely.
You know, the prophecies and defying the order, not really following it.
Del Rey really timed it perfectly. I'm so glad they released Master and Apprentice and Dooku within a week, 2 weeks.
It was about 2 weeks later, I think.
So that was perfect because they do. To me, they tie so much into each other.
They do.
But timeline wise for Dooku, I couldn't figure it out. It's not clear to me. I would actually guess it's about 10 years before Episode 1 because Qui-Gon's in Dooku Lost, but he's an apprentice still.
Yeah, he's young.
So if you're in your kind of 20s, maybe late teens, before you can become a knight, I'm only thinking of Obi-Wan from Episode 1. He was like early 20s.
Yeah, he was like 24, I think.
Yes, almost mid-20s when he was finishing his training. So Master and Apprentice, I think Qui-Gon's 40, so I'm kind of reverse math a little bit. So 10, 15, 20 years, who knows? It's definitely a while before Episode 1, this storyline. So he leaves the Order. He's been gone for quite a while, it seems like.
Yeah, and like you said, like at what point, we don't really know what point does he actually turn.
That's one of the big questions.
Yes, huge question. And the other question is, and of course, it brings back literally one of my favorite characters. Asajj Ventress is one of my favorite characters.
Yes.
You know, especially with Dark Disciple, the book that really brought her character to the forefront. I feel like, I think there's still more stories with that. I hope we get them in Clone Wars when it comes back.
Yeah.
I mean, we obviously we know her fate,
right,
because of Dark Disciple. But you know, in this, it's really her trying to search. It's about her trying to search the past of Dooku. Now, of course, you kind of find out later it's been manipulated that way, but it's centered around Dooku's family. It's centered around this whole notion of being a count, because everyone kind of knows him as Count Dooku. Well, he's not Count Dooku by birthright necessarily. I mean, he is by birthright in a sense, but he doesn't take that mantle because he goes to the Jedi Order. He's just Dooku, which we never really find his first name. I was curious about his first name. Yeah.
Well,
is he a one-name person?
That is the first name because
Dooku's
his last name would be Serenno.
Oh, you're right. It is.
That's what we found out.
That's right.
The planet is in his family's name. They're one and the same.
Yes,
the planet's named after his family because of their history. So
yes, that's right.
He would be Dooku Serenno.
Dooku Serenno. You're right.
If you had to put a name.
That's right. So, but when he's going through all these things and you're discovering these things like Asajj is, we talked about it a little bit. There's a question of whether or not Asajj, does she know about, when does she know about the Emperor, or when does she know about Sidious?
Yeah.
Because she doesn't know about him in this.
In this, she doesn't, and because it feels like she's very much early in her training with Dooku as her assassin. That's still the key word, is assassin.
But Sidious knows about her.
Oh yeah.
So it's like there's this hooded figure that it's like, and I'm trying to think, and I'm trying to think in the Clone Wars. Does she know? Does she know about Sidious in the Clone Wars? Does she ever interact?
I tried. Excuse me, to do some quick research before our show. Someone out there, please correct us. They have to be in an episode together or reference. Like, she has to know about. Because is that just a big thing that no one ever caught?
I don't think
she never knew. She never knows about Darth Sidious.
I think she thinks that Dooku is leading this whole thing, and because if I remember correctly, a lot of the times when Dooku interacts with Sidious, it's always through hologram, right?
Pretty much.
And it's only him.
Or he goes to his lair on Coruscant.
Oh, although I think he does reference my master, though. Does he?
I guess she's just never seen him. I think in Dooku Jedi Lost, she is kind of now aware of someone, again, the hooded figure, but they don't meet. They don't say, I'm Darth Sidious. This is my master. But yeah, so she probably knows about a Dark Lord controlling everything, but I don't know if she ever actually meets him.
In fact, I think there was an episode where didn't Sidious order him to kill her? I thought he said that's what makes her run.
Yeah.
So I have to go back and watch those again.
Yeah.
But anyway,
it's just a good thinker. It's like,
it is.
Did we never catch this?
Yeah, no. Yeah, totally. So, but as we go on through, when we get to episode 2, when we are first introduced to him, I do think there's, now that you have some backstory of him, and like you said, the big thing to me, and you just brought it up, is Sifo Dyas. Mm-hmm. Like, I feel like now I know for a fact, well, not that because I talked to him, but I know for a fact that
I know him.
I know Lucas had the idea of Sifo Dyas already, because there was a comic that came out shortly after episode 2. There was a brief comic that explained a little bit of what Sifo Dyas, mm-hmm.
That
he was basically captured, and Dooku used him to, somehow manipulated him into putting the order in for the clone army. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know how much of this was real until maybe the Clone Wars, but I feel like in episode 2, like if it was talked about more that Sifo Dyas had this precognition mm-hmm. ability, mm-hmm. that would have made more. That would have explained how some random Jedi went against the Council mm-hmm. and commissioned this. Because now that we're discovering this again, I put it together back then that so Dooku either forced Sifo Dyas to be the Jedi to put this order in, mm-hmm. or he killed him because Obi-Wan even says it. Sifo Dyas was killed almost mm-hmm. 10 years ago, which was right around the time of episode 1. Mm-hmm. So I'm putting together that, Dooku kills Sifo Dyas and acts like him to put mm-hmm. the order in, or Sifo Dyas was training under him, like almost turning dark, and then they kill him. You know what I mean? Like, there were so many different scenarios, and none of it ever got explained.
No.
In episode 3, you think, okay, now it's going to be explained. We never knew who Sifo Dyas was.
Right.
Never saw a picture of him.
Yeah.
That was the big one. I remember back in early 2000s, like having this big question mark, like, who is Sifo Dyas? Like, and then there was rumors going around that Sifo Dyas was just a pseudonym of Sidious.
Right. Yeah.
That,
anagram, where you can rearrange the letters, kind of thing.
But then it was like, well, wait a minute, but Obi-Wan knows him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So he was a Jedi council. He was a council member.
He was a real person, yeah.
So it wasn't until later that we finally find out that he had these visions, and he saw the war, mm-hmm. and he saw that the Republic needed a cloned army. Mm-hmm. I just feel like that would have been useful information in the movies, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then the audiobook, you get a lot more about that, his precognition abilities,
and how it was a major problem for him.
And thinking about it, that's actually because there's moments where he has precognition, he has visions about disasters on a planet, and the Jedi Order doesn't act on it. So Dooku and Sifo Dyas and their friends do. So there's similar. So that kind of fuels Dooku's reasoning to leave, is because there's problems on Serenno. The Jedi Order won't act on it, so Dooku takes upon himself to be like, okay, that's right. I'm gonna do this. So I can't be a part of the Jedi Order if I do this. So, which was great too. And we're spoiling the heck out of it, but he leaves on good terms though.
Yeah, he does
with Yoda. Him and Yoda, they have a good moment. He lets him keep his lightsaber because that normally they don't, I guess. And so no, keep it because it's
you're still a Jedi.
Yeah, you're still a Jedi.
Yeah,
you're still you. So you may need it, but just not part of the Order, obviously. And it's very interesting. It was a great book. I think another knock on it, honestly, is, I mean, the acting was great, but I think just
it didn't sound like Dooku.
I wish he sounded like Dooku.
Yeah, he didn't sound like Dooku.
Honestly, I had to listen a couple times because the ending got confusing to me.
Yes.
When Ventress is having her crazy vision thing, Sidious is manipulating her. There's so many voices going on. They all sound the same to me, so I don't know who's talking.
Agreed.
Still a little unclear, but
I was hoping it would sound like the Clone Wars, I wish. Because Ventress sounded like Ventress.
Everybody sounded good.
Yoda sounded great. So, Yoda was played by Mark Thompson, Mm-hmm. So all those were good. Dooku could have sounded more like Dooku. So does Dooku now at all? Obviously very big contributor to Episode 2. Being the Sith apprentice, and for the longest time, to anybody in the galaxy, he was the reason. He was the leader of the Separatists. He was the one that was gathering all of these systems, the Confederacy of Independent Systems, to break away from the Republic. Because it wasn't because they were following a Sith Lord. They were following what they felt like was a politician, in a sense, that truly had reasons why they should be independent, which was corruption. His big thing was like the galaxy, these senators, the chancellor, they're corrupt. They don't want what's best for you, so let's break away.
Yeah.
And it wasn't in a threatening manner. They had battle droids, but they weren't using them really. It wasn't until Geonosis that they really kind of got unleashed, right? So it's obviously this whole thing is from the brainchild of Darth Sidious, right? So it's clever when you think back about how it goes. Now, it's like you said, it's curious to find out what made him ultimately turn.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get that story eventually. But any significance of, obviously he was a pawn in the grand scheme of things. I don't know. Do you think that do you think that it was always Sidious's plan to use him in order to turn Anakin?
But see, that's also to me a big question is, how far back did Sidious plan for Anakin? Obviously there's that cool line at the end of Episode 1. We'll look on your future with great interest. Kind of thing. So it's like, oh gosh, he's gonna. That's it.
I think he sensed his power.
Yes.
I think he had him on his radar.
If I don't know, I cannot say if he planned to ultimately use Dooku and to the specific point of turning Anakin, then do away with him. But I know I'm pretty sure Sidious definitely was just using him for his own means, and then discarded him once we had no use for him, because he's only using him to enact his plan, and then once that's done, he'll just get rid of Dooku, I guess. Because that's what's the unfortunate part about Dooku is, obviously everybody gets everything. Like the movies is the ultimate; it's the gold standard, and that's the canon that you don't want to contradict. Unfortunately, we only get a brief glimpse of Dooku in the movies. So, according to the movies, he is just a pawn. He is just a little seed that gets flicked away once he's useless. He's in a few battles and that's it. But if you do look at everything, so all the Clone Wars and all the books and everything, Dooku is a huge part.
Huge.
So he was around. He was Sidious's apprentice during Phantom Menace.
Yes.
During Maul. They were the three guys. So it's, the rule of two, if we're going into that a little bit, it's kind of bent in a way, because Maul there was always three at some point. Maul wasn't, I don't think, a full Sith. I don't know if that was still canon or not, that he wasn't fully trained yet.
That's in question, yeah.
So he was still kind of like an assassin warrior.
But we don't really, I don't know. Do we know he was turned by then?
I'm making that connection that he was because of Master and Apprentice. At the end of that book,
because they couldn't get a hold of him.
Well, not just that, because at the end of Master and Apprentice, that story takes place before Episode 1, and at the end of that story, Dooku makes contact with Alvaros.
Oh, right,
and tries to recruit him.
That's right.
So I'm thinking like, okay, well, Dooku's turned at this point. So then he's still a part of it, obviously, by the time Episode 1 comes around, and if that's when Sidious dies, all this stuff. So Dooku's definitely doing work for Sidious, starting the droid army or the clone army. So it's interesting. Like Dooku's always been there, just like Sidious. They've always been together, doing their
that does kind of contradict the rule too a little bit.
But again, that's the Jedi that we hear from the Jedi. always two there are, but it's like as far as Yoda knows, and they don't even think the Sith are around.
You know, ultimately it could be. Well, he was a Darth though. That's the thing. Maul was a Darth, so you are
That's a good point.
You are a Sith when you are a Darth.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So maybe Dooku was still kind of in the wings until
He was
Maul
on
got
Serenno.
killed, and then he was
Yeah.
granted Darth Tyrannus.
Yeah. Yeah, Dooku was still doing his count stuff, like secretly Sith.
I guess. I don't, I think that'll have to be fleshed out a little bit better. But ultimately, I just think ultimately how this ties in all the way to episode 9 is really, again, the he doesn't necessarily tie in, but the Sidious's plan, again, is you got to think back and think possibly that the prequel trilogy and everything that happened, I think everything that happened leading up to episode 6, was all, I mean, obviously when he got to the end of episode 3, in the Clone Wars, that was his ultimate goal, was he's now the emperor of the galaxy, and he's now inflicting, the Empire. And it wasn't until episode 6 that all of a sudden he didn't anticipate the Ewoks to assist in helping the rebellion take him down. But I still think that what we will discover in episode 9 is that there was a backup plan. There was something.
We already know he has backup plans.
Yes. Right. Yeah, exactly. Operation Cinder.
If people just grasp the entire mythology, everything makes sense.
Everything. Yeah. So, no, but I think Dooku, as we talk about the Skywalker saga, I think he is, like you said, he is significant to the story. There's a lot more to him than just episodes 2 and 3.
Definitely way more to him. I mean, I guess the biggest takeaway, and I kind of go back to what I said, like Dooku definitely has changed for me, because now hearing his past and how he grew up, he's very compassionate. Like, I can't wrap my head around how this guy can turn evil. I mean, I get his doubts about the Jedi Order, but to the point of becoming the ruthless, horrible man that he was, killer that he was in the Clone Wars. Like he just didn't care about anybody.
He was fully Sith.
Yeah. So like that's so interesting to me. So just very much like how now Asajj is such a way more complex character through Dark Disciple. Yeah. It's like this book kind of did the same thing for me for Dooku. So I want to see that next story about his turn.
And kind of, I guess, spoilers, but in Dark Disciple, Quinlan Voss turns.
Right.
For a brief time.
Yeah.
And does come back. But he turns.
But it's like he goes into the dark side.
Yes.
But he doesn't become a Sith.
He doesn't become a Sith.
Like that's the thing. It's like,
well, it's like Ventress in a sense, right?
So
becomes kind of an assassin.
Yeah.
Or just a dark side user or something like that. I don't know,
So interesting. But she always seemed like she had that edge to her, because we get some backstory of her as well in Jedi Lost, because it's kind of about her too, I guess.
It is.
That refers to her a little bit, because that's what's we get that voice in her head from her former master.
Now that was interesting.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was interesting.
How she always kind of had that side to her that was a little more volatile.
That consciousness that's telling her that she's doing wrong.
Right.
And she's a very, very complex character. I mean, she is.
I like her.
I love it. It's so that's kind of our review of Dooku and kind of his take, his significance in the saga. I think it definitely plays a part. Obviously it was a big, moment when Anakin takes his life.
Yeah.
As the steps it was for him to turn. But he's
the only Jedi to take down Obi-Wan twice.
That's right.
Come on.
He twice he basically manhandled both of them. And it wasn't until, Anakin supposedly could have possibly tapped into the dark side a little bit and just went crazy on him,
Yeah, come on. He did a little bit.
Yeah, probably. But good stuff. Good stuff. All right. That should be it. Thanks for hanging with us. We will continue on again over the next couple of weeks and dive into episode 2 a little bit. If you're watching it on YouTube, I finally changed out my poster.
I saw that.
Right?
Yeah.
But I did the teaser poster.
Yeah.
I like that one. I remember buying that one and thinking that was like awesome. I couldn't believe it because it's it's kind of the Jedi code in a sense, right?
A little bit. If KOTOR has a different Jedi code.
Oh, really?
It's Legends now, but they have a whole like oath.
Yes,
they talk about.
So thanks everybody. InsideTheForce.com. Check us out there: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And we will be back next week to dive a little bit more into our journey to episode 9. Hit us up and take care. For Casey Cooley.
As you can see, my Jedi powers are far beyond yours. Now, back down. Good. I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Yeah, it's Obi-Wan. Oh, it's Dooku, then Obi-Wan.
Yeah, Obi-Wan.
That's good. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Episode 2. It's probably on the bottom of the list, but there's some good things to it.
I still
there's
like
some good
it.
Stuff to it.
It's still got some good stuff. But.
And I think I looked it up. It's the second longest of the movies.
That's probably one reason why I didn't like it as much because it felt long.
It did feel long.
It feels very long, very slow.
Yeah, there's not a lot of action until the end.
Right.
But the action at the end is phenomenal.
Yeah. Oh, man, yeah.
Biology Gnosis is like, I remember watching that for the first time. I'm like, whoa.
Like, it's so great because it propels the story so much further in terms of getting us to Darth Vader. It's just like, he's got the hand chopped off. He's married. It's like he's killed all the Tusken Raiders. He's so far down that path now.
But it's also the first time we visually see the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Because I remember the trailer coming out and you had Yoda at the end. Begun, the Clone Wars had. It's like, oh my gosh, this is what we've been talking about for like 15 years. And then now we're finally getting able to see the Clone Wars. So the beginning of it in a way. And I remember thinking, it was funny because I remember thinking, we got the first battle of the Clone Wars, and then episode 3 comes out. We got the last battle of the Clone Wars. It's like, wait a minute, there's 3 years in there that I don't get to see, and then they made the animated series. I'm like, wow, okay, actually now this is the Clone Wars, and there's so many stories in there. Because you think back when you watch the original trilogy, it's like you just heard about the Clone Wars, but it was it like something that lasted like one battle or something like that, or was it
a few months?
But it was a big 3-year campaign. So anyway, more to come on that. Thanks everybody for listening. Take care. Go check out Galaxy's Edge if you can.
Yeah.
I'll give my full report later in the year, hopefully.
Stay tuned.
Yeah. All right. He's Casey.
Goodbye, everybody.
I'm Dave. May the Force be with you.